And we have a wonderful guest right on set, Kayleigh McEnany, co-host of Outnumbered, former White House press secretary, my dear colleague and friend, and author of the upcoming book, Serenity in the Storm, Living Through Chaos by Leaning on Christ. Wow, love that.
Thank you.
Love the title of it. When is it out?
May 2nd. Yes.
Maybe you'll come back, and
Absolutely.
you'll certainly do radio with me. I love selling books, especially good books.
And I'm sure you do it well, so I'm
especially
looking forward
books about faith. It's terrific stuff.
Yes.
Kayleigh, let's talk some about the speech last night. What's your thought?
You know, I wish it would have been a little more forward-looking. Obviously, he needed to mention the indictment, and I think that there was a place to broaden it from they're after me, but we should be talking about you. I think this is the recipe for success moving forward. And what I mean by that is I would have loved if he began the speech by saying 6 individuals died last week. They were murdered. They were shot. We should be having a conversation with every mother in America, father, how to secure our schools, how to bring down inflation, your grocery bill. You pointed out that really good portion he did on the economy. The reason I say this is because the Biden administration has reportedly delayed Biden's announcement. They are loving the fact that Biden's in the White House. This was reporting in Politico Playbook, that Biden's in the White House as Trump is being indicted. And Trump can move beyond that contrast by moving the ball forward towards policy because, look, he has an unlikely ally. When you have ABC, CBS, CNN, Washington Post all defending you, saying these are bogus charges, the media is defending you. Let them do that work.
Wow.
It is something.
That's a wonderful point. Can I say, put your legal hat on for a second. People may not know you went to the Harvard Law School and you know a fair amount about all this stuff. Can I just ask you about the indictment? Now, we know it was a weak indictment and so forth and so on. Everyone seems to take for granted that Trump falsified some business documents, okay? Do we know that? Has that been proven? I'm not aware that there has been proof that they were falsified in any way. I mean, I understand about, hiring legal consultants and that sort of thing. Why is that a crime? Why is that even a misdemeanor? That hasn't been proven, has it?
It hasn't been proven. And look, the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016 classified the payment for the Steele dossier as a legal expenditure.
Right.
And she even had to pay the DNC in her campaign had to pay $113,000 because it was an FEC violation, but that was in Brooklyn. There were no charges brought. That is New York state law that would apply to that as well. But it wasn't brought because this is political in nature. The underlying crime of which I thought this was a fantastic question from a reporter to Alvin Bragg. If there was an underlying crime here, why didn't you charge it?
Yes.
He had no answer.
I get that, 100%. But it's just that before that, there was this assumption that, the business documents were tampered with in some illegal way. And I'm just saying, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I just haven't heard proof positive of that. And I know that Michael Cohen, is a convicted perjurer. So I don't believe a thing of anything.
They're relying on the word of Michael Cohen. He's the star witness here.
Right.
So good luck with that.
All right. So exactly. So, okay. So they're going to even have to prove the basic misdemeanor that everyone's taking.
Both of them, to rack it up to that felony. And we don't know, is he relying on, I don't practice law. I did go to Harvard Law School and graduate. But I will say that they're going to have to prove either the initial misdemeanor under state law or the federal election violation. And Bragg's unclear as to which he's even pursuing. He doesn't know. He said he doesn't need to know, which, yes, you do. You need to know which crimes you're charging.
All right, moving on. What I'm calling the politicalization of the judicial system, the court system, and the rule of law, which the president talks a lot about. In economics, all free market capitalism is based on the rule of law and private property.
Yes.
And really no other country has that, because most countries, the government takes precedence. In our economic system, in our country, the individual takes precedent. Now, how big a threat is that? What has to be done here? And is Trump onto something?
Yeah, Trump's absolutely onto something. That is why, I mentioned the me and broadening this out. The rule of law should matter. And I would argue that our trust in institutions, you can see it in public polling, is on the floor for pretty much every institution, the presidency, the media, everything. I would argue the Supreme Court insulated from that, at least at this point in time, as a trusted institution. But when you can no longer trust your local DA, when you walk around New York City wondering if you will be charged with a crime because of your party identification or your last name, that is a very troubling notion in this country that believes in the rule of law. And there's a fascinating piece. It was in the New York Times, a guest essay by a federal prosecutor who teased this out and said technically Hunter Biden could be charged under Florida law pursuant to this statute. So imagine a Florida attorney general flexing their muscles, going after a political enemy in this way. It's not how our justice system works, which is why Trump needs to make this broad case.
So he will. I mean, in other words, I'm thinking, I'm sensitive to the grievance issue, right? I'm so happy that all of last night's speech wasn't about the 2020 election, because every time I talk to him, I keep saying pivot. In my case, pivot to a growth and prosperity message. But I do think the rule of law and, non-political democracy and a non-political judicial system, I mean, I think that's a good issue. And I think Joe Biden tried to take that issue in 2022, but now Alvin Bragg has lost it for the Democrats, or at least I'm asking your opinion on it.
I agree it's a good issue, but it needs to be packaged in a certain way. And when President Trump talks about this, I think about talking to a persuadable voter, a suburban mom who President Trump lost, an independent voter who President Trump lost. He's got the GOP primary voter. You look at polling, he was beating Ron DeSantis and Reuters poll by 6%. Now almost 30%. This indictment has rallied the party around him. So now my mission, if I'm President Trump, I'm going to speak to that independent voter, to that suburban mom, what issues matter to them most. And you can package rule of law in a way that's appealing to them alongside the issues of school safety and inflation.
I was going to say inflation. Package the rule of law for me.
Packaging the rule of law is...
You're very good at this. I just want to hear it.
Thank you.
Let's finish the thought.
Today it's me, tomorrow it's you.
Yes.
A meme maker.
Yes.
Someone who someone who simply created a meme was investigated and prosecuted and convicted. And all he did was create a meme about the 2016 election saying how to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Could be your husband, could be you, could be a banker, could be a stockbroker, could be an insurance guy, could be a salesman, could be somebody working in the oil fields. They can go after you on a whim.
And who wants to run for political office? I've talked to a lot of young people who said, I'm never signing my family up for this if it's going to end like it has for President Trump. May just be the beginning for him. We'll see.
No, it's a terrific insight. We'll couple that with a good prosperity message, which we're working very hard on. Last one, you mentioned the polls. Are the polls sustainable?
They are. I have no doubt about it. I think the debate stage is where this will be litigated. Ron DeSantis is an incredible candidate. He's my governor in Florida. He's done marvelous things. He's currently leading in Florida, according to polling. This is a state-by-state race. Got to win Iowa, and anything can happen. Someone wins Iowa, they get momentum, and then all of a sudden South Carolina and New Hampshire start to look different.
So you're not sure that Trump's lead is sustainable?
He can sustain it.
He's going to have to earn it.
But he's going to have to earn it on a debate stage. It can be sustained. It's going to be hard to overcome. I mean, a 30% margin seems insurmountable, but modern-day polling hasn't quite been accurate. And debate stages change things. We saw, for instance, Ben Carson get a lot of momentum after a debate in 2016. People come up and down, but Trump always stayed the steady top. So will this be a 2016 where people pop up and down? Or can DeSantis really have strong momentum with a strong debate performance? It is certainly possible.
Akila's sending me to the showers in YouTube, but I want to ask you one more thing. I want to extend this. If I were DeSantis, all right, my interests here are economic growth and prosperity. Those are my interests. These are not new interests. These are 40, almost 50-year interests for me. Now, look at. DeSantis, should talk about, we've run this story twice, the difference between New York and Florida.
Yes.
New York has the highest taxes. Florida has virtually no taxes. Florida has more people than New York and a budget half the size of New York. Florida grows faster than New York by a long shot. Florida has lower unemployment than New York. Substitute New York for Biden. DeSantis has a perfect prosperity message, but he doesn't yet do it. He doesn't put it out there. I'll send you the riffs. There was a Wall Street Journal editorial about this. Florida versus New York, it's tailor-made for Governor DeSantis. I don't want to get in any trouble from any other people running. I just want to see them all running on a prosperity agenda. Why didn't he do that? It's all there. He's got it. It's there.
It's a fantastic...
Factually.
It's a fantastic point you made. Some of those data points I had not even heard until you said them.
I'm going to send you the columns.
Yes. Well, look, he hasn't declared yet. People know Ron DeSantis as the governor who has fought for education and academic freedom and parents' rights in schools. They don't yet know him as that. You're right. Nor do they know him as the governor who brought down crime rates in Florida to some of the lowest points they've been in decades. So when he has his, if he does choose to run, and he has his national coming out, that will be the moment where you're exactly right. He'll have to tease out this message, because I can tell you, we know where President Trump is on the economy.
No,
you were
that's
there
right.
to see it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And just saying, I'm not picking any candidates. I'm just saying I want them all to run on a prosperity agenda, because I think at the end of the day, that's going to be the number one issue, because we're already in stagflation. No one likes that, and it's going to turn into recession later this year or next year, and everybody's going to hate that. But I'll just tell you, so you're a Floridian. You live in Miami?
No, Tampa area,
All right,
so
Tampa.
Hillsborough.
Okay,
Yep.
but I was just going to say, here's the example. If you live in New York City, your state and city income tax is 14.8%.
Yes. Yep.
If you live in Miami, your income tax is 0.
Yeah.
Now, if I were Governor DeSantis, I'd be selling that.
That is an appealing message. But I can tell you what President Trump will say.
Of course.
He will say, been there, done that.
Yes.
You've been a governor, I've been a president, and I brought down employment to the lowest rates in history.
I get it.
Median income grew for marginalized communities. So President Trump can say, I've been there, done that.
I invented this.
You
Look,
invented it. You
make
did.
America great again.
I don't have to tell you. You
I'm
did
just
it.
trying to say this is DeSantis' talking point.
Yes.
Kayleigh McEnany, the best of the best. You can see her on Outnumbered weekdays at 12 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Name of the coming out book?
It is Serenity in the Storm.
Comes out
May 2nd.
All right, terrific stuff.
Thank you.